It's like the news, but for nerds. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Nerdvengers, it is Josh, and this is your nerdy news rundown for Thursday, June 17th. We gotta talk about the Black Widow reviews. People are finally seeing screenings of the Black Widow movie, and it's mostly positive, but there are some interesting negative things being said about the film. So that's gonna take the remainder of your news because, well, it was a lighter news day. What do you want from me? We're gonna talk about the Black Widow reviews. Here we go. Now, I saw an incredible thread here on Reddit. Shout out to user tbing34 for gathering all of these links, and then the mods over at the Marvel Studios Spoilers subreddit put together a really cool list of all kinds of different reactions from people that have seen it. I'm going to go over some of the people that I like that are on this list, some of the people that I align with their views mostly. We'll see what they say. I also want to look at some of the negative things being said about the movie, and then I'll sort of talk about where my personal hype is for this film, and we will speculate about the two post-credit scenes that are apparently at the end of Black Widow. It's going to get juicy, baby. Here we go. All right, and here we go. Let's start with Brandon Davis. Here he says, Black Widow is one of Marvel's best solo films. Start to finish, the movie is great. Excellent surprises, emotional character moments, badass action, and Scarlett Johansson finally gets to pour everything into the role. Director Kate Shortland nailed it. Bravo. Eric Davis says, Marvel movies are back. Black Widow is a tense, action-packed spy thriller that truly completes Natasha's story in a visceral and emotional way. Florence Pugh crushes it and is an instant MCU icon. This is like the MCU's Bond movie with shades of Mission Impossible and Thelma and Louise. He goes on to say a few other notes. Yes, there's a post-credit scene, so stick around. David Harbour is hilarious, and a major scene stealer takes place after Civil War, so lots of Avengers references. If this is Scarlett's final performance as Natasha, it's a great way to go out. He goes on to talk about the action being a very, very fun ride. Pretty cool stuff. Grace Randolph says, I've seen Black Widow. A Marvel star is born with Florence Pugh's Yelena Bolova. A lot of talking, but the action scenes are excellent. Very raw movie, especially the first 2/3. There are two reveals that take proper precautions to avoid spoiler. The review embargo lifts on the 29th. She goes on to say, it's a smaller MCU movie, but definitely movie-worthy. Reveals are also on the small side. Get excited about saying goodbye to Nat and hello to Yelena. I saw it at home, but do have tickets to see it in a premium theater weekend it opens. Finally, on screeners, there was one end credit scene at the very end after all the credits. Humberto Gonzalez says Marvel movies are back, and Phase 4 kicks off with the very entertaining and action-packed Black Widow, giving us a long overdue look at Natasha's backstory with solid performances throughout and thrilling set pieces that demand you see this movie on the biggest screen possible. That's cool, and the first time that I saw that really made to be a point, it's like, yo, you gots to go check this out in the theater. By the way, I do plan on watching this with all of the Nerdvengers, doing a watch party live with the film. But I am going to go check it out in theaters probably that same weekend, especially if I really like it. I definitely want to see it in theaters. But I kind of like the digital thing because we can kind of watch it together when it first comes out and do all the speculating together. But that's just me. Nimrov says, Doug Black Widow a good deal. Was kind of worried about watching this story unfold, knowing what's to come in Endgame, that it might diminish the stakes. But that wasn't the case. In fact, this is the kind of prequel story that feels bound to enhance other installments of the MCU. Lots I loved in Black Widow, but the standout component is that ensemble. Maybe it's because I'm super close to my sister, but I couldn't get enough of Natasha and Yelena's relationship. From the bickering to the more heartfelt moments, this is my kind of twisted family film. Steve Frosty Weintrope says Kate Shortland had the difficult job trying to fill in Natasha Romanoff's backstory, but she nailed it in Black Widow. While the entire cast was great, both Florence Pugh and David Harbour hit home runs with their performances. No way audiences don't want more of both characters. He goes on to say, also, the action is nonstop in Black Widow and so well done. And if you like it, you can thank the second unit director, Darren Prescott. You know his work from John Wick movies, Black Panther, Captain America, Civil War. Don't watch on Disney+. See this movie in the theater. Again, why not both? And Tessa Smith says, Black Widow is full of incredible action sequence, and it is so good to see Natasha again. Even if it feels like a side character sometimes, Florence Pugh steals the show. Her chemistry with Scarlett Johansson makes the movie what it is and provides a lot of laughs. Besides all the laughs, there's some heart in Black Widow as well, with great lessons about family that might have fans shedding some tears. Taskmaster is one of the best villains in the Marvel comics and is too underused in this film, but looks great when in it. She goes on saying, after groundbreaking MCU shows like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, Black Widow feels like a bit of a step backwards and would have worked better immediately after Endgame as intended, or even before Civil War. That being said, it is a great setup for things to come. So, interesting there. We get a little bit of that slight, like, oh, this is a little underwhelming kind of an attitude. And that was not the only comments made about this. And I want to read here what Charles Villanueva says, who is a writer for the MCU Exchange and writes at the Multiverse of Madness. He said, Black Widow left me wanting more. It has a cool Craig Bond MI/The American things going for it, but it doesn't embrace those elements as much as it should. Starts off good, but loses steam in a janky third act. It has decent action, but is missing that oomph. Taskmaster action, not the character, is a big disappointment. All of Task's noteworthy action beats are in the trailer. Marvel's most formidable combatant doesn't get to do impressive ass-whooping I had hoped. At least I can rest knowing Task's true identity. Cast is good, though. The cast keeps the heart of the film beating. They nailed the family stuff real good. Florence Pugh and Harbor are standouts. Wasn't sure about a new Black Widow post-Endgame, but Yelena makes for a damn worthy successor for Nat. Okay, so interesting. Mostly positive. I mean, let's be fair, mostly positive, and I am hyped out about the things that I'm, hearing in the positive sense, but it's definitely not a small amount of people saying that the action, especially around Taskmaster, is sort of a letdown, and there were several people that said the movie just never hit that oomph that they would have wanted from a Marvel movie, and they're kind of saying that the movie would have done better, obviously, in its original time slot before some of these other shows and things that are currently out there. Especially with Loki being the quality of show that it is, I can't help but think the Black Widow movie may be met with some, meh by a lot of different Marvel fans, because again, it just feels almost out of time. I mean, even the film, had it come out in its original time slot, still felt like it was out of time. That movie should have replaced Captain Marvel and happened between Endgame and Infinity War, and probably would have made Nat's sacrifice in Endgame way more, noteworthy and make sense, etc., etc. So it's always felt like a movie out of time for me personally, and I am a little bit discouraged to hear that some people think the third act doesn't work, it doesn't hit that oomph, and Taskmaster's action sequences are not what they could be. However, there's a lot to love in the reviews. I think one of the things definitely standing out is how well Florence Pugh does, which is exciting because she is, of course, going to be our Black Widow moving forward in the MCU, seemingly for some time now. David Harbour stealing the show is dope. Hope we see more of him. I'm excited for that. But something that somebody said very negatively about the film actually got me really interested. They said online that this movie feels like it's all mostly just to set up a coming Disney Plus series, which is really weird. Now, we're going to slightly get into some pseudo spoiler territory. If you don't want to know anything about the post-credit scenes that are apparently in Black Widow, get on out of here. There was a post made in the Marvel Studios spoilers where there is somebody who's apparently seen the shows, and all we can really glean is that they say that the post-credit scene of Black Widow is about Yelena and connects the film with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the Hawkeye show. And if you didn't know this, it probably means they're setting up that Hawkeye show, and Yelena will likely be in that show. She was originally going to be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier before everything got shifted around because of the pandy, but we definitely know that Florence Pugh was set to be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they cut her out or didn't have her shoot. That was because of the pandy and the shuffling around. And so it's very likely that they're going to be putting her in to the Hawkeye show. So very interesting to hear that the post-credit scenes, at least the one I think that you see in the screener, one post-credit scene that seems to set up ties to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the Hawkeye series, probably just stuff with Florence Pugh, stuff with the sort of more grounded heroes in the MCU, maybe even some Dark Avenger stuff or something like that. Who knows exactly? But I don't know. Some people are saying that's kind of a bummer, that the movie feels like it doesn't really matter and just sets up future stuff in the MCU. I'm just looking for a fun action ride ride. I'm excited to see Taskmaster. I hope people are wrong and it's super dope and we see a lot of action, but I'm going to try to curb my expectations for it. And I actually love the idea of the post-credit scene tying to this Hawkeye show, tying to that side of the MCU. And I'm also hoping there's an additional one for the actual film that might well tie to Thunderbolts or to other big things happening in the MCU. Regardless, it's about dang time this Black Widow movie comes out. I'm very interested in what you think about these early reviews and where you are at with the movie. By the way, are you going to go see the movie in theaters? Are you going to purchase it at premium access prices on Disney Plus? Are you going to do both? Let us know in the comment section. What are your plans for the Black Widow movie? Make sure you check out our live streaming channel where we do live streams every day, Monday through Friday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, always talking about juicy, nerdy news. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.